All right, today we're diving into a word you've definitely heard before, a name that's basically become shorthand for ruthless ambition, Machiavellianism. We throw it around to describe those cunning politicians, those cold-hearted CEOs. But is it really just a playbook for the bad guys? Or is there something way more complicated hiding behind this dark art of power? Let's get into it.
So let me just start with this, a question that really cuts to the core of this whole thing. What if the key to winning, to surviving, to getting ahead, isn't about being a good person? What if, to really come out on top, you have to be willing to set your morals aside? And this, right here, is the version we all think we know. It's the soundbite, the bumper sticker, for the whole philosophy. The ends justify the means. You know, as long as I win, who cares how I got there? This is the Machiavellianism of pop culture. And yeah, in psychology, this is pretty much the definition they run with. It's a personality trait where power and success are everything, and you get there by being strategic, calculating, and kind of emotionally cold. It's the classic villain's MO for sure. But is that really all there is to it? Okay, this is where we need to pump the brakes a little. Because the popular idea of Machiavellianism, well, it isn't quite what Niccolò Machiavelli himself was actually talking about. He wasn't just writing a guide for sociopaths.
So really? Was his famous book, The Prince, just a how-to guide for becoming a tyrant? Not exactly. See, to get what he was really doing, you have to understand the world he lived in. He was trying to solve a very specific and very, very dangerous problem.
Machiavelli was, above all, a realist. He looked around at the world of the 16th century and saw a pretty brutal place. He noticed that, hey, people are usually looking out for number one. Loyalty? It tends to disappear when things get tough. And maybe most importantly, he saw that a leader who is purely good and moral is often a leader who ends up dead, crushed by someone far more ruthless. And this is the key takeaway, really. Machiavelli's advice wasn't about being cruel just for the fun of it. It was about solving a leader's dilemma. To protect your kingdom, to keep things stable, you have to look like a moral, virtuous leader to the public. But behind closed doors, you have to be ready and willing to be absolutely ruthless if it means survival.
So, what does this very pragmatic and yeah, kind of chilling playbook actually look like? Let's break down the core rules of power that have come to define this whole idea.
All right, rule number one, the big one. The ends justify the means. If the final result is good for the state, keeping it stable, keeping you in power, then some pretty harsh actions, like lying or breaking a treaty, suddenly become acceptable tools. It's all a cooled calculation of outcome over method.
Now, this next part is all about public relations, really. Machiavelli totally got that people judge what they see, not what's actually true. So a leader has to appear generous, faithful, and religious, even if their actions behind the scenes are the exact opposite. Perception, he argued, is a form of power itself.
This leads us to one of his most debated questions. Is it better to be loved or to be feared? Well, Machiavelli saw love as totally unstable. It's based on emotion, and emotions are fickle. Fear, on the other hand, that's based on the consequence of crossing you. And that, he said, is way more stable, way more reliable.
And that brings us to his most famous line. It is safer to be feared than loved if one cannot be both. But, and this is a huge but, he was very clear that a leader must inspire fear without ever being hated. This isn't about wild, unpredictable terror. It's about a controlled, calculated respect born from consequence.
The last couple of principles are just as cold. For one, people are basically tools. Relationships are judged by one thing and one thing only. How useful are they to your goals? And then there's this idea that morality isn't some fixed North Star. It's situational. What's right or wrong completely changes depending on what's needed to hold on to power. Okay, so how does a 500-year-old political book apply to us today? Well, the idea was so powerful that modern psychologists basically adopted the name. And honestly, you can see these same behaviors playing out everywhere, from the corporate world to your own social circles.
In psychology, Machiavellianism is actually one part of what's called the dark triad of personalities, but it's different from the other two. See, narcissists need constant admiration, and psychopaths are impulsive and lack empathy. The Machiavellian, though, they're patient, they're strategic. Their manipulation is a quiet, long-term game of chess.
And you have absolutely seen this in action.
Think about the coworker who acts like your best friend while quietly taking credit for your ideas. Or the politician who talks about peace while secretly planning for war. Or even just that social climber who is only nice to you when they think you can do something for them. It's the same principle every time. Calculated action for personal gain.
Now look, this mindset can definitely lead to success. It can get you to the top, but it's always a trade-off. There is a very, very real price to be paid for wielding this kind of power.
You can really see the trade-off here. The strengths are obvious. You become a brilliant strategist, you have incredible emotional control, and you're a survivor in any competitive field. But the downsides are just as stark. You'll lose the trust of everyone around you, you'll likely be incredibly lonely, and in the long run, your power can become super unstable once people figure out your game. It might win you some battles, but it can absolutely lose you the war for real loyalty.
So, who actually pulled this off? Who was the poster boy for this philosophy? Well, Machiavelli had a perfect example. A man he thought was the ideal prince, the absolutely ruthless and brilliant Cesare Borgia. And this story is just a masterclass in the playbook. So Borgia conquers a new territory. First, he uses quick, brutal force to wipe out his enemies. Done. Then, to get the chaotic region under control, he puts a famously cruel governor in charge. Once that governor has done all the dirty work and the people despise him, Borgia has him publicly executed in the town square. In one single move, he creates stability through fear and then wins the love of the people by positioning himself as their savior. It's shocking, but it's a perfect example of the theory in practice.
Which leaves us with one final and pretty unsettling question. In a competitive world, a world full of rivals who definitely don't play by the rules, is clinging to a strict moral code just a weakness? Is a certain amount of this cold, pragmatic thinking actually necessary just to survive? It's the question Machiavelli asked 500 years ago, and it's one we are all still grappling with today.